Good morning.
Morning.
How are you?
That 30 seconds went very quickly.
It goes so quickly. You can't do anything, can you? I often think maybe I'll just quickly nip to the loo before we start. I'm like, no, you can't do it. Too much pressure. No. How are you,
Morning,
Amanda?
I'm very well, thank you, Kate. How are you? You had a good week?
Yeah, good, thank you. It's so nice that the sun is shining.
I don't know if it's good. Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say it makes a difference in every aspect of my life, I think.
Bless. I was thinking about that with the children breaking up for school. It's so nice if it is nice weather for them, wouldn't it be?
It would be so nice, and it's lovely to be able to make plans and know that it's going to be nice weather. Like I've got a play date with one of my son's friends this afternoon, and I can set the garden up and just know that it's going to be sunny rather than being like, oh, I'm not sure what's going to happen. So yeah, anyway, it's lovely. Hi Delphine, nice to see you.
Morning, Delphine.
Say hello if you're watching. It'll be lovely to see how everybody's getting on. Friday again, and Monday is Freedom Day.
Freedom Day. How are you feeling about it, Kate?
I have really mixed feelings. I feel like life won't be that different to how it has been. We've all sort of been the rules have been so lax anyway, or guidelines. So yeah, and I feel quite apprehensive about what's going to do to the numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel very similar, Kate. It's I don't know. I've spoken to so many people and said that it's too soon. So some people are like, if we don't do something, there may be anarchy because people are so fed up with it. There's rumour that it might, we might be back in a lockdown in October. All of that sort of concern, and it's like, and yet, I understand economically why we need to get back to some sort of normality. So it's
such a balancing act. But a lot of the time we've been in lockdown to save the NHS, haven't we? Because the NHS has been we've saved it now. So there's kind of not much reason, I guess, to not relax the rules, but it is nerve-wracking. And I think, which we're going to talk about today, that everybody has different emotions and opinions around it. So when you're in sales and working with clients, that's really difficult to try and manage everybody's very strong, often, opinions, because people have strong opinions about masks and no masks and social distancing and things, don't they?
Very much so. Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so this morning we're going to talk
nicely on.
Yeah, move us on. It's almost like it's planned, isn't it? This morning we're going to talk about welcome back to sales. This is Amanda and I's first Savvy Says together, which is so odd because we've been doing it for nearly a year. So yeah, great to be doing it together. One thing we were going to ask people before we start is we've been doing Savvy Says since August 2020, so nearly a year now, every single Friday. We've had 2 Fridays off in almost a year. So and what we'd like to do is do a bit of a push on it, because we put out hopefully some good content every week, and have some useful discussions and get your input. We have lots of people that come every single week, or that if they can't come, catch up. So we'd love you to kind of spread the Savvy Says love, if you wouldn't mind. Yeah, spread the word, and either tag people on it. It's tricky. I know it's on Facebook. We're trying to push for LinkedIn Live, but we haven't got the go ahead from LinkedIn yet. So either tag people that you feel like might be interested, or just message them on LinkedIn and tell them about it, or talk about it in your appointments that you might be having. Just mention it. Or even we have a LinkedIn event every week which has the topic and who's going to be presenting it and the information. So please do invite lots of people to it, and if you feel like the topics are going to be relevant, we'd love to get the numbers up to kind of keep doing it, because we love it and it's good fun and hopefully really useful as well. So yeah, that's my little plea at the beginning. And now we'll move on to some actual interesting conversations. Amanda, you're going to talk about some kind of stats that we've found, aren't you?
Yes, interestingly, steps really, stats that we found about how people are feeling about going back to work. Obviously, we were talking about the fact that it's the Freedom Day on Monday, and obviously people will be encouraged to go back to the industry or back into their workplace. Interestingly, more than 2/3 of workers have said they're concerned about returning back to the office, according to a study that was conducted by verywellmind.com. So that's quite a substantial figure when you think about it and you actually look into it, that 2/3 of the workplace are concerned. Now, to flip that on the positive side, and we always try to do this, going back into the office will come with its benefits as well. So there will be increased productivity, less loneliness, and firmer boundaries between the work and home life. So there is a positive as that as well. So we have to be mindful as well that there is going to be a positive to returning back to work. And
I think it's interesting. I was just going to say about kind of working from home versus working in the office. I feel like working from home is always like dubbed as the dream, like, oh, I work from home, it's so great. But actually, when everyone's been doing it for so long, there has been a lot of struggles with mental health and loneliness. So you're right to kind of pick up those positives. Also, that stat of 2/3 of people are concerned about going into the office. I think whilst everybody's kind of craving that human interaction and everyone's like, well, I just want to go back to normal now, actually that's a lot of people who are kind of concerned maybe behind the scenes about it.
And we have to remember, going back to normal isn't the normal that we know. It's a different normal as well. It's the whole what's the expectation in the workplace, what do I need to do, not only sort of the logging in and remembering passwords or whatever for systems if you haven't been working system, but it's the whole emotional thing of what's expected of me when I walk through the door. I might, do I wear a mask? Do I have to do a temperature check? Do I have to check in with the NH? All of that just initially to walk through the door, and that is going to, if you're of an unsure nature in the first place, that's just going to add to even more uncertainty just stepping into the property or the workplace. So it's quite frightening when you think about 2/3 of those. And then the last step was that maintaining a positive outlook and setting personal boundaries and practicing self-care will help ease those anxieties when returning back to the workplace. So again, it's about thinking of you emotionally and how you're going to deal with that, and not, having personal boundaries and being mindful of yourself and your health and your care of yourself as well, which was interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Like checking in on yourself and kind of regular occasions and talking to friends about it. I mean, I was chatting to a friend the other week. She had a really difficult lockdown one. She lives on her own, and therefore for lockdown one, she was just purely on her own the whole time. And she said she felt a bit like the world was like it was Armageddon outside the door. She was so scared to go out, because when you're on your own, you get up in your head about it, and if you're watching the news too much, it gets too much. Anyway, that was a year ago, or lockdown one, and we were chatting about it, and I was saying, I think you've got a bit of PTSD from that. She says it still haunts me how scared I was. And a lot of us, I think, in the background might have a little bit. I know that there's been things on the news about there being a mental health crisis. So it's worth us recognising that and chatting to friends about how, because sometimes it's hard to recognise it in yourself, isn't it? So chatting to friends about how you're really feeling, because she was saying all these emotions, and I was like, that sounds like PTSD or some sort of.
She would never have recognised that without you actually listening to her and taking on board what she was saying, would she?
No, because you don't in yourself. You just carry on and think, oh, come on, like, I could go to work today. Like, that's that. So, yeah, I think...
Sorry, Kate.
Chatting to people about it.
Absolutely. I think you're so right with that. And also people, I don't know about you, but I think if you are suffering with any anxiety like that, you're very reticent to actually go and seek professional help, because you're thinking, actually, I don't want to add to the strain of the current NHS. So I've something, I'll wait. I'll go, I won't bother. I'll just self-diagnose, or I won't bother the doctors with it or anything, because you feel a little bit, when you look around the news, there's lots of other things that are worse than happening around, that I actually can't justify and make an appointment to the doctor or whatever. So yeah,
I think as well, like we hear about mental health crisis, the care care sector is so stretched. You sort of think, oh, maybe I'll just wait a year when things calm down and then I'll sort myself out. But which, that's a very selfless way to look at things and thing to do. But if you do, if you feel like you do need some support, then reach out to a good friend. Or Eventwell are amazing charity within our industry who are fully funded. People fund them and you give so much support to people. So do reach out. Even it doesn't always have to be your GP. There's a lot of places that are there to help. We're going down a tangent that we were not planning on going down now. Never mind. So it is important to remember to not be harsh on yourself when we're going back to work. We've all been through one hell of an 18 months. We know that. So kind of checking in with yourself and giving yourself a bit of slack is good in terms of your mental health, and also in terms of your actual workplace. There are so many changes within business, aren't there, in terms of team, colleagues, management, procedures are just jumping through hoops all the time. Every course, every workshop we do, we have to recheck what the procedures are. Bless Sarah from Bright Space Events, shout out to her. I'm always like, Sarah, can you help me? What's going on? So yeah, not being harsh on yourself. Another thing we were talking about is understanding what your current strategy and goals are for the business, because that probably will have changed as well. This is something we're doing a lot of work on with clients at the moment, looking at whether their strategy is shorter term, getting some business on the books for kind of cash flow and survival over the next 6 months, or medium term for next year in amongst postponed bookings, or is it that actually you've got business on the books for the next few years, so you're looking at longer term kind of higher revenue bookings. So do have a sit down and work out what your strategy is, and remember that, and let your business strategy is one thing, the kind of overall arching holistic strategy is one thing, but actually your role or your focus for any one day can be a lot more niche than that. So it might be that your strategy is to work with as many different industries as possible, or 10 different types of industries. But actually today I'm just going to focus on pharmaceutical. I always use pharma as an example because it's like go-to, isn't it? So yeah, reassess what your strategy is. Let's see what Lynette's saying something interesting. We should say hello to people, really. Hi, Diana. Nice to see you. Morning, Jeanette. Hello. Hi, Fem. And hi, Vibo. Lovely to see you, Vibo. Vibo's watching all the way from Strasbourg. Morning, Lynette. Lynette is saying, I do think the doctors are here to help, but definitely talk to a friend, family, and if not face-to-face, text it or email it. It helps to write it down.
Dear Lynette, I never think to do. Yeah, very good idea.
That's a really good idea. Even just to write, I think I might need to talk. I think I might need help, and then shut your eyes and send it. And cross your fingers. Yeah, really good point, Lynette. Thank you. So going back to work and back to sales, there are lots of considerations that we need to think about when talking to clients now, and kind of what their emotions are. And like we said at the beginning of this session, everyone's emotions are so different. With Freedom Day on Monday, whilst the guidelines, so the social distancing and mask guidelines are no longer guidelines, some people will still want to do it. Some people won't care and will be really happy to hug you and throw their arms around you. So as in the service industry, it's kind of our job to assess how they're feeling before we, within the conversations that we have before we actually meet them, or certainly before we hold their event. We were reading a really interesting article from Flock, which is a white paper by Exclusive Hotels. Danny Pecorelli put it out on LinkedIn about a month or so ago. Oh, somebody's phoning me on my phone. Sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My phone's linked to my headphones. I could just hear my phone ringing. Sorry. Put it on LinkedIn about a month or so ago, and it was showing what the change in primary considerations for clients are due to COVID. And number one was sanitisation, which probably is self-explanatory. That was 1,400% above what it was pre-COVID. We also had number two was location, interestingly, perhaps due to travel, not wanting delegates to travel too far.
I think also, sorry to interject there, but I think location in terms of country venues as opposed to going into city was one of the primary reasons, because obviously they wanted to go to a country, a venue within the country where there would you could park. There's no need to go onto public transport. That whole idea of you're in your own space, you're getting there in your own car, or so that was the reason as well. I think that location was quite key. Yeah,
you're totally right. And also I think with country venues you often get a lot more grounds, so they can go outside and do things. Next was price, which is a tricky one at the moment, because obviously we've been shut, so we can't be diluting our prices too much. Fourth on the list was increased commission, which I know has been a hot topic of conversation between hotels and agents recently. And then sustainability, which hadn't actually changed, which I actually think is really interesting, because sustainability has sort of come hand in hand, hasn't it, with not travelling and the kind of lockdown and everything.
Very strange, isn't it, that it's not moved at all? But it's still very important consideration for these buyers, which again, I think venues have to be mindful that that's the way forward, and certainly will increase going forward. And when you think of sustainability and environmental, without getting on the hybrid too much, but I think that's going to be quite a key consideration going forward with agents and clients, particularly with clients when they're speaking to their agents. So yeah, absolutely.
So I've done a LinkedIn poll, which I would love to put the link in the comments, actually. If anybody wants to or feels that they can reply to it, that would be fabulous. I think we've got about 90 replies at the moment, so we want to get as many as possible so we've got decent data. And it's essentially all about what the biggest issue is that you're facing with clients delivering events at the moment. I'll put the link in here. I was only able to do 4, what are they called, like choices, yeah, because there was several more, and Fen was saying you should have put this on it. I was like, oh, I couldn't because it wouldn't let me, but so I went with and the results so far are that lack of staff is the biggest issue, with 56% of people saying that's the biggest issue. This is a conversation we're having daily with clients, that recruitment is just so tough at the moment, and people are doing different jobs to what they've ever done before, and is actually the topic for next week's Sally Says Too, which we'll be talking about. Next was client confidence at 30%. Interesting, I think probably that's been jolted a lot by the pushing back of Freedom Day by a month. It's not going to have helped our cause. And then third was clients negotiating on cost. So at 9%, which is nice that that's so low. because we all need a bit of cash flow and profit in our businesses. And then the fourth option was other, and a couple of people wrote in comments that well, one person from Australia wrote about it. In different countries, the threat of lockdown is a big deal, which is sort of what we were going through in November, December, where we were like, well, do we want to open? Do we want to book these events? Because we might be in lockdown in January. And we were. So, yeah, tricky. So research, when you are back in the office, research what those future kind of business trends look like, how clients are feeling, what types of events they're booking, chat to industry colleagues and pick their brains. What is the kind of industry looking like in the next 6 months to a year? Nobody really knows because everything's so up and down. But the more kind of conversations you have with industry peers and even competitors, or as they used to be pre-COVID competitors, we're all in the same boat now, I think. Yeah, they're always useful conversations.
I had a useful conversation with a team building company last week, and his inquiries have gone through the roof. So I said, you know, what industry, what's happening, where are they coming from? I'm really interested, when are they taking place, that sort of thing. And he was saying that a lot of tech companies had approached him. Logistics, I think you mentioned as well, there was a logistic you've dealt, or you've heard of one of your clients saying that logistics is one way forward in terms of inquiries. Is that right, Kate?
Yeah, I've got a client who had a boom in logistics companies inquiring. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And that's another way just to establish, because obviously it was a team building company, but these clients are obviously looking to host events and take their team away or do whatever it may be. So it gives you an idea, as you've mentioned, Kate, in terms of what industries are actually can afford to do events and are looking at hosting them. And he did mention that they were all sort of November, December into the first quarter next year. So it's well worth having those conversations with your suppliers, just to sort of find out what's going on there, to get an idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Team building, event, obviously agents, event organisers and planners and AV companies, all of these suppliers, because exactly like you say, if those industries are booking team building, then they're going to be booking everybody else in the industry, or have the potential to. Yeah.
So yeah, very good.
So you're moving on to a bit of hybrid now, aren't you?
So we found some stats, again, looking at the trends of what's happening with clients and what they're looking for. But as live events are coming back, fingers crossed, there is a need for planning for hybrid, and it's something that you may want to shy away of, but I would suggest you don't going forward, certainly when you're looking at your business strategy. Stats went back to January this year that suggested that the question was, are you, as in event planners, planning hybrid events with both in-person and virtual audience? And back in January, there was a 21% percentage that said yes, they were considering looking at hybrid when they were thinking about their events. The same poll was redone in May, and that had increased to 36%. And then currently, July the 7th, it was done again, and that's gone up to 40%. And I have a feeling that as we go into the autumn, that will become higher as well. So it's something to be mindful about, in terms of what clients are looking for and what you as a business can offer in terms of hybrid. So certainly something to consider, which, it's a way forward. It might not be your long-term strategy or your business's long-term strategy, but it's something to consider in the short-term stroke medium term. And
to get your ducks in a row with it, because I've spoken to lots of venues about it. Some of them are like, yeah, I just want to know what it is so that in case we get inquiries. And some of them are saying, oh, we haven't had any inquiries, so we're not going to bother. And I just don't get that mentality, because all of the stats are showing that it's on the rise and that it's getting more popular, and it doesn't cost any money to get it, to be able to just have packages in the background, just in case you get them. So I think it's a good idea to just include it just in case, because the stats are all pointing in the same direction.
Interestingly enough, Kate, I was talking to a client from Magdalen College. She's the conference and events director for Magdalen College in Oxford. They never did hybrid at all. It wasn't what they did. They've got a huge lecture theatre. It was all in person. And she mentioned that a couple of weeks ago, they got a really good AV company. So they got that partnership. They delivered, because they were asked to deliver a hybrid conference. Word had got out, and within the 2-week span that they'd got the AV equipment, they had 4 additional hybrid conferences that were booked in those 2-week period. And again, you know, just sort of reaffirming what you've said, it's out there, and it's potentially there's some revenue to be had there. So
yeah. And actually, we've also, when we've delivered hybrid together, we've had clients who have been able to use it as a conversion tool just to get the bookings across the line. When we mentioned client confidence already, they were nervous about booking. They weren't sure whether their attendees were going to be happy. They weren't sure who's going to want to wear masks, who's going to social distance, everything. But actually, then the venue's been able to say, well, don't worry, because we'll just turn it into a hybrid event. We know how to do that now. And it's been really helpful to be able to use it as that kind of angle as well.
Yeah.
Lynette's saying, from stats I've heard is that hybrid will be used to grow the attendees, so have X in the room and Y amount on hybrid. So definitely still out there, either to keep people safe or to grow audiences. Yeah, absolutely. There's so many reasons for it. Sustainability, we've mentioned, is another one.
Absolutely. Very good point, Lynette. Thank you. Something that has also been, while I've been chatting to our industry peers over the last couple of weeks, is that unfortunately our clients are being quite demanding and difficult at this moment in time. I think the reason being is that they're probably a little uncertain, fed up with their own 4 walls. It could be a combination of these leisure guests as well as MICE guests. But we have to be conscious of our own limitations so that we ourselves can manage that client expectation from the word go. So it's about, again, not taking it personally, but the word out is that clients are demanding and can be difficult, and it's about just managing that, I think, and being mindful. And again, going back to your colleagues and chatting to friends or whatever, just to ensure that you have a mental state of an equilibrium more than anything.
Yeah, you're so diplomatic, Amanda. We've had some horror stories of some horrendous guests at venues and hotels. So yeah, but you're right. I think understanding what those limits are, so that when you go out there and have to face them, if they are being difficult, then you can cope with it. Difficult, so difficult. It's interesting, and we were chatting about this yesterday, weren't we, Amanda? That my predictions, naively, a couple of months ago, were that all guests and attendees to events and everything were going to be quite empathetic with the lack of staff that we're struggling with, the recruitment situation, everything that's going on in the industry, everything that we've been through over the last year, the fact that we've been shut for nearly a year, or so many venues and hotels have. I thought that clients would be, I gave too much credit to the human race, I think, that they were going to be nice about it, but from the word on the street, it's been quite tough.
No, it's been quite tough for them. It's interesting. I don't know. I can only assume it's because they're uncertain, and it's about trying to manage their expectations. Obviously, they're going. You know, a hotel stay isn't what it was 3 years ago. It's completely different, and it's managing that expectation so that the guest knows what's happening in the minute they walk through, you know, where they park, how they come into reception, what's expected of them, that the staff will be in masks, or they'll be expected to do a temperature, whatever it may be. And I think it's that whole concept of the uncertainty. And I think you know, I think that's the reason. I'm trying to understand why they're behaving in that way, from their point of view. I can't imagine, and we've all been in the industry long enough to know that there are a few, but not as many as that what's come out of the woodwork now. And I think it's not their general personality, it's just the situation that our guests have been put into. So, and also you have to remember, these people wanted probably to spend 2 weeks in the Maldives, and they're now in the Cotswolds for 2 weeks. I mean, you know, so they're probably tighten up.
Ryan, come on, that's so hard. Oh well, thank you. That was a kind of snippet of our Welcome Back to Sales workshop, although the Welcome Back to Sales workshop is a bit more formal, with PowerPoints and everything and breakout rooms for a few hours, which I'll put the link in. We're running it, Amanda and myself are running it in on the 29th of July alongside HBAA. We've got 2 guest speakers, Louisa Rodriguez, who is the learning and development manager for Mowgli. Thought it was Mowgli Street Food, which is a really cool restaurant chain. She's going to be giving us some tips about how to kind of survive and manage work alongside your colleagues, and also some stuff on personal development to look after ourselves. And we've got Lee Cowlishaw from Black Box Communications, from working with Gavin Percy, her husband, on mental health, and from HBAA. She's going to be talking about mental health coping strategies in the industry. And Amanda and I are going to be talking about how clients are now buying from us and how it's changed from 2 years ago, and what you guys can do to adapt to that. So yeah, fabulous. Thank you so much. Next week, we have the wonderful Lynette Wood, famous Lynette from Alma Rose, talking to Femke from Selling Savvy about recruitment, the recruitment state of the industry, and how we can all do our bit to elevate the perception of hospitality throughout the world.
Topic that's going to be.
Yeah, thank you very much. We'll just have a look at these comments before we go. Managing expectations is crucial, Diana. Yeah, continuing to do this with clients from inquiry to show round stages, and of course beyond. Yeah, it filters into everything, doesn't it? Jeanette, I've always found a smile diffuses a lot, but tough to do with masks. So I think sometimes the problem is made worse by the lack of expressions.
Point, actually, never thought of that. Yeah.
That's so interesting. I feel like I'm quite an expressionate pet. You can always tell what I'm thinking on my face. So yeah, maybe that's an interesting reason. Anyway, we better go. Stop chatting.
Very chat. Very nice to see everybody. Thank you for joining us.
Friday. Enjoy the sun. See you later.